Hi, I'm Ben Province, and welcome to Show Me the Music. On today's show, I'll get to talk to St. Louis rapper, producer, and songwriter Tarcea Renee.
For decades, hip-hop has been a vital part of St. Louis's musical identity, with artists ranging from the secular to the sacred. The latter pertains to our guest, Tarcea Renee, whose artistic emphasis leans heavily on her personal faith and community outreach. The St. Louis native's latest EP, Lighthouse, was released in 2019 by her own non-profit record label, Vivid Core Music. The organization's recording studio aims to, quote, create high-quality art at affordable rates because creativity shouldn't be limited by income. The studio offers music and podcast recording as well as mixing and mastering.
And I'm joined now by Tarcea Renee. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's my pleasure. And I wanted to start at the very beginning. You started rapping when you were 9.
Yes, sir.
And I wanted to know if you remember the first bars you ever wrote, and if you could rap those for us.
Yes. So the funny thing about that is being on STL TV, because it was a St. Louis-based rap, but it went a little bit like this, and it's super short. So it said, it's just a typical day in the STL. I'm trying to get that mail. And that was just like, that was all I could come up with at the time, but I knew that it rhymed and I liked the rhythm of it. Mm-hmm. But then I lacked in one area, which was the production, basically the music behind it. And so I sort of halted from writing the lyrics, and that's what intrigued me to start producing my own music.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I want to get into the Lighthouse EP, your most recent release. My favorite song on the record is Keep It Lit, and I think for me it's an example of how a great flow and a great beat can come together and turn into something really cool. Now, for a song like that, do you write the lyrics first, or do you produce the beat first?
So with full projects, I usually have a concept in mind that I sort of want to stick to, and all of my song titles and lyrics are usually based on that. So Keep It Lit came from just having a heart to want to shine my light, let my light shine, as Christ said we should.
What you gonna do when they try to dim my lights down? Word blazing my bones, I ain't coming to play around. Standing firm when they got some, you can get it right now. We can go at it however you want, it can go down. We gon' keep it lit, we gon' keep it lit.
And then I found production for it that would really fit the mold that I wanted the song to have.
And you have a collaborator on that track, Reuben Jones. He released an album recently called Endurance on your label, and I wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out. So if you could talk about that release. Yeah,
definitely. So shout out to Reuben Jones. He is my label mate. We are both on the Vivid Core Music record label, and he released Endurance LP recently. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. He shared his heart and his life experience from the last 3 years, which was very heavy, but ultimately became very triumphant as well, so yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about another song on the Lighthouse EP, Highlight Reel.
Yeah.
It seems like that was inspired by seeing on the idea that you see only the best of people on social media, and the lyric, life is not a movie, it's a highlight reel. I got that right?
Yeah, you got it right.
Cool.
Life is not a movie, it's a highlight reel. The outside never shows how we feel. We look good till somebody get a black light. Live our best life till somebody shine a flashlight. Life is not a movie, it's a highlight reel. The outside never shows.
That just came from, obviously the world today is heavily based on social media. But a lot of people, they don't post the bad things that they're dealing with. They may post, maybe when a family member or a friend passes or something like that. But for the most part, even myself, we share the highlights, like the high points of our lives that we want people to see. We don't typically share the worst of the worst things, but we can sort of give off a life of perfection, or like this great life, even when we have our bad moments, we're still posting the best things that we may have in our phones or tablets, or from the computer. But highlight reel is just about, you know, having a real perception of people and realizing, you know, we shouldn't envy the fact that this person's life may look a certain way, because behind the scenes, outside of what they're actually posting, it can be much, much worse than that. So that's what really influenced me to make that song, and just, you know, sharing my heart about it and sharing the fact that people should stay grounded and find contentment in their personal lives, not, you know, looking at another person's life and saying, I want this or I want that, because you just never know how bad things really are behind those posts.
No, you don't. That's, yeah, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And you touched on it a little bit. You're a nonprofit record label, Vivid Core Music. Why was it important for you to make that a nonprofit?
So Vivid Core Music, it was important essentially for me to make that a nonprofit, because I wanted to make it a community resource rather than putting profit over people. I want the record label and the recording studio to be a resource that's more accessible to like that urban inner city kid that may be underserved, where there's not a lot of resources in city-based or public schools. There's not a lot of extracurricular activities to plug into either, like just from the school itself. So I wanted to make it affordable and accessible. That was primarily what made me go ahead and make it a nonprofit, because typically a lot of recording studios, they'll charge, you know, what the actual value of doing the work is for running a recording studio. But I wanted to look at the person who I wanted to serve rather than the service that's being provided.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And you have artists on your label, and I was
Yes,
reading
sir.
about how you assist them with branding
Yeah.
and collecting royalties. How does that
Yes,
work
sir.
for your artists?
Yeah, so with artists who are on Vivid Core Music, the record label side of things, we try to help them, you know, really brand who they are as a person and weave that into their artistry. But there's also a business side, you know, that's important that a lot of artists neglect. And it takes money to record music and to distribute music. So where we step in at is ensuring that the artist is still getting some type of return on their investment. Even though they're not doing it for profit, it's important to just not throw money in the air, you know, and just kind of leave it as it is. There are certain strategies and certain business paperwork that need to be taken care of to at least make sure it's worth it, or that we can at least keep it going. So,
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to clarify that an artist to work with you in your studio doesn't have to be an artist on your label. They
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all.
And so which services would you offer for those artists who come into the studio?
So artists who come to Vivid Core Music Studio, they can come in to record. Some artists just simply need music behind lyrics that they've written already. They can come in to have their music mixed, which is basically having a recording go through the process of making it sound good, per se. Because we can record anything on our phones, and sometimes it just may not sound the greatest, but the mixing process or audio production is the process of making it sound like the things that we hear on the radio. And we also offer mastering. Or if artists just need a consultation to figure out, okay, I have this record that I recorded, now what does it take for me to put it on digital streaming platforms and things like that, then we talk through things like that as well with artists. So.
And you offer beats for artists as well too,
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
You did some recent renovations as well at the studio. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so actually through a partnership with the church that I attend, Faith Community Bible Church, we were able to have discussion with my pastor, because we were in a transitional period during COVID where we were moving from home, but also there was this discomfort that I had with having a home studio. You know, you don't want to bring everybody into the home, whether you know them or don't know them. It's just safety precaution for my family. So there came some discomfort with running a home-based studio, which is what Vivid Core Music was initially when it started. And so in that conversation with our pastor, we came to the conclusion of us being able to rent space at the church because no one was using the 3rd floor at our church. So that just worked out perfectly. Yeah.
Wow. And I wanted to give you a minute to talk about the other 2 artists on Vivid Chord Music,
No problem.
Gully Mark and Noel Jones.
Yeah, thank you. So Gully Mark is another rapper that we have a part of the label, but he also sings.
Wake up from the snooze. I got some good news. Just because in life you take a L, that don't mean you gotta lose. W's up, got a dub over her. Had my share of the pain in the first.
Gully Mark released a project right before Reuben Jones did, and it's called Won't Fold EP Part 1. Just for some insight, Part 1 is very important. Noel Jones is also working on some new music, and Noel sings. I would call her a blend between pop and R&B, but definitely still Christ-centered. All of our music is Christ-centered because that's the standard that we set as a label, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's wonderful. I love
Thank
your
you.
vision and
I appreciate
and what you're doing. But to talk specifically about your own music,
Okay.
you talked to me a little bit off camera that you
Yeah.
have a new project in the works, and I want to know all about that.
Yeah, so I guess to give you a little more insider, we are actually moving into an EP/single model with the label just because people consume music so much faster nowadays. We're gonna make sure that we're able to produce music much faster for the people who support our music, people who are just looking for new music, people who are looking for hope. Of course, we want to give people that through music, so we want to push as much music out as we can produce. So I've been working on a few singles myself, and those will be heard soon.
Does it change your approach as a songwriter to do something specifically for a single as compared to a concept for an EP or an album?
Yes, I would say for me personally, singles are a more free process because if I find a beat or a topic that's just based on even current events or something that's heavily been on my heart lately, then I can find the music that, you know, I want to write to and easily just write the lyrics based on that. With an EP, I have a certain concept that I'm trying to stick to. So everything is kind of birthed out of that. It's not necessarily harder, but it's just a different process.
And finally, I wanted to ask, what's your best advice you could give to an artist/producer who's trying to become the next Tarcea Renee?
The best advice that I can give is to stay focused, because life can throw a lot of different things at us that can get us off track or make us discouraged from creating music or writing music. And I would say with staying focused, you can write from the heart, even in those moments that you may be discouraged. Some people make some of the best music when they are discouraged or when they're down about something or when life sort of is, you know, on the harder side of things. So I would just say stay focused on why you do what you do. Yeah.
I think that's great advice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. I definitely appreciate
Well,
it.
it's my pleasure. And you're watching Show Me the Music.
I'm just trying to show 'em, what hope really look like. Hoping that they get to know 'em, 'cause they future don't look right.
Tarcea Renee's latest EP, Lighthouse, is available now on streaming platforms. To learn more about her non-profit record label and recording studio, or to book studio time, visit vividcoremusic.com.
Well, that'll do it for today's show. I want to give a huge thank you to my guest, Tarcea Renee. And on behalf of the entire crew, my name is Ben Province, and I'm asking you to show me the music.